Call to order this September 14th, 2011 meeting of the Canoe Open Space Conservation Agency. Will you please join me in the salute to the flag?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May we have the roll call, please?
Director Bill de la Pena.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Fox. Absent. Director Gibson.
Here.
Director Jacobson. Chairperson Skay.
Here. We have a quorum. Next item is public comments. We do have comment on item 6A. Ms. Evans, would you like to make those comments now or wait for the item to come up? Yes, you can. Sure. All right. And no other cards. Next up is our report from the Canoe Open Space Trails Advisory Committee. Mr. Langton, are you making that report? Annual Trail Workday and summary of recent Cosca Volunteer Corps activities, which Ms. Austin will take.
Okay. Yes, I'll be reporting on item 4A, the annual Trail Workday. Plans are proceeding as normal. There hasn't been anything that is out of the ordinary. We just found out, I guess I wouldn't go so far as to say finalized, but we did come to a relative agreement on the location, which is going to be the reworking real Sunset Hills Trail off of Herbs Road. And we're still working out the details for the outreach. We're basically going to be doing typical outreach to the local papers. We're also going to be engaging with more social media. But as we've come to know over the years, we only really need about 200 people to fulfill the work that is necessary. So it'd be great to have more people show up, but then they'd just kind of be walking around, following, maybe tromping down the trail after people have done work on it. But the more people that know about it, the better. And if we have that many people come out, more than 200, that'd be great. But right now, that's what we're about scheduled for. And so everything is looking good.
Very good. Any questions or comments for Mr. Langton? Okay, thank you so much. And Ms. Austin, did you want to report on the Volunteer Corps activity?
Yes, thanks, Chair Skay. The volunteers had a busy few months. This report is for May through August of this year. One new trail was adopted. It's the Lizard Rock Trail by Jacob Ross. And 17 reports were filed with the Adopted Trail Coordinator, which equated to 20.5 volunteer hours by the Adopted Trail volunteers. And to date, 29 trails have been adopted throughout our open space system, which is really impressive. For the Trail Watch program, 114 reports were submitted and 220 volunteer hours were given. For the Trail Patrol program, 32 patrols occurred and 134 volunteer hours were given, which again is very generous of our volunteers. And we did have 2 trailhead outreaches, one on July 27th in Wildwood and one on September 3rd in Lang Ranch. And the volunteers at those outreaches spoke to over 150 people. So they made a lot of contact, gave out trail maps, told them about volunteer opportunities in the open space. And there was also a non-native invasive plant removal volunteer day, which was organized by some of our volunteers on July 21st. And they removed non-native fennel, castor bean, and arundo in the Conejo Canyon's open space. And they had 18 volunteers for 72 volunteer hours donated. So it's been a busy summer.
And hard work.
Yes, very hard work.
Thank goodness for those
heat.
volunteers. Mm-hmm. Any questions? Okay. Yes, Claudia.
Good evening. I have a question regarding the Adopt a Trail program for the viewing audience. Excuse me, for the viewing audience, perhaps if you could explain what the Adopt a Trail program entails.
Sure. So a trail enthusiast would pick a section of trail that they want to adopt, and then it's a 1-year commitment, and basically they would be trained by the Adopt a Trail coordinator, who is Rick Capel, one of our Cosca members, and basically they're committing to walking the trail pretty regularly, picking up trash, and if they see a problem with the trail, some kind of maintenance issue, alerting the rangers and generally participating in repairing the trail if it's a minor repair. If not, then the rangers would fix it. So they're basically adopting it, kind of taking care of it, taking it on as, you know, the trail that they'll watch out for the next year.
And how often should a potential interested person monitor this trail or hike this trail and pick up the trash?
Ideally once a week, but that's not a requirement.
Is there a monetary contribution at all? Any donation that they have to do in addition to picking up the trash and other
No.
things? Okay, thank you. Oh, yes, you can, of course, hike the trail. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to consent calendar. This is the minutes of the May 11th meeting. Any changes or additions? Or
Move approval.
Moved by Director Bill De La Pena, and sounds like we have a second down there. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Minutes pass. This takes us to new items. 6A is the proposed Southmoor Park Road Los Robles Trailhead Improvement Project. Ms. Austin?
Thank you, Chair Skay. Cosca and the city are cooperating on a project to improve the Los Robles Trailhead and the southerly terminus of Moore Park Road. And we have a PowerPoint. Thank you. The improvements combine the unneeded 200 feet of Moore Park Road with the existing trailhead area, increasing the size and number of parking spaces available. The trailhead provides access for hikers, bicyclists, and equestrians to miles of trails in the Los Robles and adjoining open space areas. Here's a location map so you can see where the project is. It's at the south end of Moore Park Road, just west of Green Meadow, south of the 101 freeway. And here's a closer up view of the site. You can see the existing Los Robles trailhead on the northern portion of the picture, and then below that is the unneeded right-of-way. That is the very southern end of Moore Park Road. And the existing southern terminus basically just comes to a halt. You can see at the furthest black line, and generally the end of a street would be a cul-de-sac bulb. So this project is to improve both the trailhead and the end of Moore Park Road. And here is a picture you might recognize of the existing Los Robles trailhead at that location, and that's the sign we have out there right now. Here's another shot of the entrance to the Los Robles trail, next to the trailhead. And here are some hikers on one of the trails in the Los Robles open space. So the existing trailhead is 0.3 acres in size and has an unimproved dirt surface. The west side is steeply sloped, making parking, loading, and unloading of gear difficult. The slope and rolled curbs cause dirt to wash onto the roads during heavy rains. The trailhead has a maximum capacity for 20 cars to park, so trail users park on Green Meadow Avenue and the dead-end portion of Moore Park Road when the trailhead is full. Here's a view of the trailhead looking northwest. And here's the trailhead looking south along the west side where there's that slope that makes loading and unloading, especially of bicycles, difficult. Regarding the Southmoor Park Road right-of-way, in 1965, the south end of Moore Park Road was built as part of the Los Robles Hills Estates. The original circulation element of the city's general plan envisioned Moore Park Road extending south and east to Potrero Road and Westlake Boulevard. The road extension became unnecessary when most of the intervening land was permanently preserved as open space. The existing right-of-way consists of two 20-foot wide travel lanes and a 24-foot wide raised median that you can sort of see there. It's kind of hard because the trees are shading the southern travel lane, but you can see the raised median in the middle and then the trailhead a little bit to the north. The project goals are to create a proper southern terminus for Moore Park Road, enhance the capacity, appearance, safety, and function of the Los Robles trailhead, and to improve traffic flow at the intersection of Moore Park Road and Green Meadow Avenue. The conceptual project elements include the following. Provide one-way access into the parking lot from Green Meadow Avenue with the exit onto Moore Park Road. Remove the raised median to enlarge the trailhead and add approximately 40 parking spaces. Install standard curbs and gutters adjacent to the road and install native landscaping and temporary irrigation as appropriate. And install fencing and a turnaround at the new terminus of Moore Park Road. Further conceptual project elements include resurfacing the parking lot with soil cement or permeable pavement, providing horse trailer access and parking, installing water fountains for horses, dogs, and people, as well as installing shade trees, benches, trail signage, and possibly a picnic table, and grading and installing retaining walls as needed to create a level parking lot. These conceptual project details will be refined during the design process. All of the elements listed may not be included, and new elements may be added. New lighting, bathrooms, and gates are not proposed. In terms of the project process and funding, the city's Traffic and Transportation Advisory Committee will review this project at their September 21st meeting. The project would be funded through the city's fiscal year 11-12 capital improvement project budget, and no Cosca funding will be used. The estimated costs are $50,000 for design and $250,000 for construction. And the city public works staff will manage the project, and that will be in close coordination with Cosca and CRPD staff, so it really will be a partnership. In conclusion, this is an excellent opportunity for Cosca to partner with the city to achieve both agencies' goals. The city will bring the southerly terminus of Moore Park Road into conformance with the general plan, and the project will provide needed improvements to Cosca's second most popular trailhead. In terms of the next steps, should the board approve the conceptual project, Cosca staff will work with city public works staff to refine the design of the project. And staff recommends that the board authorize the proposed improvements to Cosca's Los Robles trailhead. And I'm available for questions. Thank you.
Are there questions of Ms. Austin? I have one. Has there been any, as part of the design, would you be looking at minimizing or eliminating runoff?
Yes, we would.
Just from
that would be part of the grading.
And you could possibly even have more of a detention on site.
Right.
Either that or at least eliminate, I would assume you'd want to try to eliminate some of the erosion and sediment that washes off the site now.
Yes, that's definitely one of the goals of the project,
okay.
Because we don't want to have anything washing onto the road. So the grading will be designed so that there isn't anything washing onto the road. And I think that the curb installation will help a lot too, because right now it's rolled curbs, so the dirt just sort of rolls over the curb surface. So that'll be part of the design.
Okay. And yes.
You mentioned in your presentation that some elements may not be included, which are proposed, and that new elements may be included. What could those new elements be?
We don't Actually, no. It's sort of things that would come out in the design process. So perhaps, some sort of car stop for the wheels, or small things like that. It's just that because we don't have an actual design drawn up yet, and we haven't had any kind of engineering or grading plans drawn up, we're not sure. But if anything significant came up, we would come back to the Costco board with that.
And then what could be some of the elements that could potentially not be included in the final project?
It's possible that the picnic table wouldn't work out. There wouldn't be a place to put it. It might be that we can't fit as many parking spaces in there, so we might have to reduce the number of parking spaces that we're envisioning. Things like that.
How about maybe eliminating or cutting back on some of the landscape ideas?
Yes, that's definitely possible. I mean, I think we're already planning on minimizing the landscaping. Mm-hmm. Really, the main point of landscaping would be to provide some shade in the trailhead area, because right now it's really sunny, as you could see, and the only real shade is right next to the southern edge of the road right there. So,
can we have that picture up again, the aerial photograph of the street?
Getting there.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Thank you. Okay. The other question I had was, you said in your presentation that it is the second most popular trailhead in Thousand Oaks, and there is an email here that says that hardly anyone visits. Well, let me see if I'm reading this correctly, but that it is not used very frequently. Do we have any data that this is frequently used or visited?
We don't have any numbers in writing, but we just know from our rangers that it's very well used on the weekends. During the week, most of our trailheads are not extremely crowded necessarily, but on the weekends, this one and Wildwood are very crowded.
Including equestrian use, since horse trailers or parking for horse trailers is proposed?
What's that?
Including equestrian use?
Are you asking if it's
currently being used by equestrians?
It is. That's according to the rangers, so yes.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure where the horse trailers park at this time. If they probably park on the road if it's crowded, because there's not enough room for them to get in and turn around.
And the money is not coming from the Cosca budget, as you said. It's all city money.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
Yes, I know we have a public speaker card. Thank you. That's what you're signaling. I actually had a question. So the Cosca is being asked to opine on this at this time because it's on Cosca land.
Correct.
Right, but it would be, as you said, funded by the city's capital improvement budget if it's approved by the city as well.
Correct. It has to be approved by both agencies.
And another question. So at the current terminus of Moore Park, I see the traffic markers there, but is there some other barricade at this time to keep cars from just keep going? Okay. And the idea would be to try and round that out somehow so it is more of a turnaround for cars, or not?
Yeah, that's going to be part of the design process. But yeah, there would be some sort of, I think, a bulb or something at the end of Moore Park. Yeah, at the new end of Moore Park. And I don't know if Mr. Watkins wants to say anything about that in terms of what the standard practice is.
Sure, I'd be happy to just make a quick comment. One of the problems with it as it is now, too, if you can see there's a median there, is that people that are heading back northbound end up on the wrong side of the median when they leave the parking lot. There's really no way to get to that south side, and so there would be a cul-de-sac, and that's part of the reason that the city would want Costco's cooperation, is the cul-de-sac would go partially on the Costco side of things in order to meet the turning radiuses required by the fire department. So, but then that median would be removed, and it would look more like a normal roadway.
Okay. Other questions of staff? Yes, Director Jacobson.
Does the weekend traffic spill over with parking required to accommodate trail users on the adjacent streets at this time?
Yes, when the when the trailhead fills up, the trail users do park on Green Meadow.
So it's
Yes.
anticipated that this expansion will alleviate that problem, at least in part?
Yes.
And will there be marked spaces rather than what looks to be a random parking as it is now to control and enable it to be used, the parking to be more efficient?
Yes, that's what we're envisioning will happen in the design process.
And does the adjacent homeowner need any type of buffering in order to protect them in part? That's where the pool area is shown. To protect them in part from lights or any other encroachment that might occur?
No, we're not proposing any lights to be installed or any other sort of encroachment. There's already a sidewalk. Well, there's a property line wall, and then a lot of trees, and then a sidewalk, and then the existing roadway there. So basically, we wouldn't be expanding the roadway any closer to that person's property.
I see. Well, I wasn't referring to lights that we would provide, but rather headlights, which would otherwise maybe now be directed into their yards if they did not have fencing or some type of obstruction.
Okay, they do have a stone wall there, but also our trails are closed at sunset, so there shouldn't be people there with headlights in their cars and all that.
Do you have any existing water provision for either animals or trailhead users at this time?
We don't at this trailhead. There is water available further to the north by the whole access trail, but it would be nice to have it here since this is such a popular spot.
I see. It's not on this as a subject of this particular consideration, but you said it was the second most popular, the first being Wildwood. Would you anticipate there will be at some time in the future a paralleling type development, although it may not be provided by the city to enhance that parking area?
That parking area has actually been enhanced recently, and there is a water fountain there, and they did put some fencing in and some wheel stops in to delineate the parking better. So it's definitely looking better. I don't know if we have any plans to do anything else. We could ask the park superintendent maybe at the end of this meeting.
Well, that's not a subject of this consideration, but I just wondered if we had paralleling type problems there that needed to be resolved. Thank you.
Director Gibson.
Yeah, Shelley, just a couple questions. You indicated that right now there's parking for approximately 20 cars or vehicles, and you're going to increase that by 40 or increase that to 40?
The proposal is to increase it by 40, but that's sort of confusing because I don't think all 40 new spaces would be on the existing right-of-way. I think just because we're going to try to delineate the parking spaces better, we could fit more cars on the two areas combined.
Okay.
And that's just a rough estimate also. I didn't actually measure it out.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if you were going to double it or triple it. So you're going to try to triple it, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay. And then in doing that, are there going to be any provisions for ADA parking then?
Yes. That's definitely part of
All right,
the design.
Okay. No other questions? We have a speaker, Miss Evans. Please come up to the mic.
Hi, I received this in the mail last week, and it really upset me. And I sent a very stark message because I saw this as a real threat to our peaceful way of living, which is one of the reasons that we lived here. And we rented in this area before we moved in this area. And we had learned from our friends who had lived here for so many years about the green spaces and how everyone was so respectful here of the green spaces and how you were dedicated to keeping that way so that we could have a different kind of life than I came from the city. So when this came to me, I was very upset that, oh no, here we go, we're going to pave paradise and put up a parking lot. I felt threatened. I can see it, but logistically now, after listening to everything, and Kathy Laurie saying that they're going to take out oak trees, there are no oak trees right in that area. So that was a wrong statement by Miss Laurie, but she did call me to let me know that this was going on. So then I started putting my thoughts together and spoke with some of my neighbors, and there are a lot of questions involved now. And I don't just mean that I can understand your reasoning, but there's no way I can just look at that space because I'm there every day. And I my husband and I hike in there every day, and I clean up, tampons, Kleenexes, backpacks, water bottles, shirts, canned trash bottles. I mean, it has been... It's become very dear to our hearts. So we also do the volunteer putting the doggy bags in there. So I know these trails and I know this area. There's no way 40 parking spaces are going to fit in there. There's no way. And there's no way you can put a picnic table in there, because if you do, you're going to draw people to our peaceful neighborhood and have people staying there overnight. And I mean teenagers. And the area at the end of this trail is completely open. There's more than 40 spaces at the end of the trail. So I can understand traffic-wise. I mean, see this space here? Okay, that is cool. If you take that out and just make that a parking lot, that would be really cool. But if you put in the entrance, the main entrance, this is the main entrance to going into where we live. This is jammed already anyway, especially at the high peak hours, early morning, noon, and then evening. So you're going to have a trail of people, coming in here. The cars are going to go across here, and there's going to be a major mess there because it's just a narrow street. It's just a two-way street, and so especially with cars already parked there and trailers already parked there, that's going to be a mess. So that needs to be rethought out. There are no oak trees here, but they're saying they want to take out this. Oh, I'm sorry, but sometimes you can talk better from pictures, and I'm very nervous because I'm not a public speaker. But I am here to tell you that initially I just hated the idea, but I can understand about the dirt and the runoff. Now that, as far as a environmentally cohesive and put water back into the area, that would be a wonderful idea if it's designed in such a way. Oh, okay. Can you all hear me? Okay, is that comfortable for everyone? Okay. If you design it in such a way that the water and the runoff can be directed into the plants, that would be fabulous. And I'm sure that could be achieved very easily by just, pressure. There's the principle of pressure and putting water back to where it goes. And, we got some of those big rain barrels, and that's how we keep our rainwater after the rains. I haven't talked to the Homeowners Association into doing that yet. I've tried. And the seepage watering rather than on the leaves, because leaves do not accept water. I mean, the plant does not accept nourishment from the leaves. They, get it from the roots. So if we could direct all the water that runs off from that back into the plants that are there, then we wouldn't have that high dry area, and that would help with some of the fire danger. So that could be a cool thing. But then, okay, then you tell me $50,000 for the design. And I was wondering, has that been bid on? Or is this just somebody's friend? Or was this going to be like the logo, where I came and said I would do a logo for free for the city, and I had tons of awards for the logos and all the work I'd done. I even worked for the FBI and did logo work for them and special effects and designs, and I volunteered my time and effort, and nobody called me. So I was wondering, this $50,000 that you proposed for the design, is that just, out of space? Or did you already bid it to people? Did you talk to people already? Or is that an average that you've done from other, trailheads? Or, that to me, is very confusing, because I don't think it would cost that much to do the design if it's very ergonomic. And maybe somebody would volunteer. Maybe somebody from our town would volunteer and help with that, and then put that money into something else. I thought we were broke. I saw all this stuff last year about how Thousand Oaks is just so broke and everything, and then I saw this project and went, I guess we're not broke. But definitely, please, no picnic tables. That's insane. That's just crazy. I mean, there's a picnic table up at in the trail. Nobody uses it. That's put the picnic table in the lakes. Let's see.
Could you summarize, Ms. Evans?
Okay, and I would like to volunteer my time to work on the design, because I've designed sets, design home, I'm not interior of homes, for myself and my husband and some friends, just offering advice. My whole family's involved, they're architects, blah, blah, blah. But I would like to be involved with the project and donate my time, because I love this area, I love Thousand Oaks. And I'd love to, keep in mind that there are people that live here, and the reason we move there and pay those high prices is so we have quick access to the trails. And we do take care of those trails. I didn't know there was a volunteer program for the trails. We just did it because we love the space, and that's just what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to leave it as you found it. I mean, I think that's a Boy Scout motto. And some people just don't. And I don't know about, like if you dig down, to get rid of that hill and stuff, that's going to be a major problem. And that will be, like if you have to put up a retaining wall for that area, just to dig down and make a flat parking lot, that's going to be a huge problem. So, and that will be more than your $250,000. So I just wanted to say, slow down, rethink it. I wish you'd do nothing. I'd say, put the $50,000 into something else. But so that's all that I can think of right now. I know when I go home, I've forgotten a lot of stuff. But I thank you so much for considering all this, though, and all your efforts, everyone. Thank you so much for your time and working so hard for keeping this city the way it is, because we're unique and we need to stay that way. And I really appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Evans. Any other questions or issues that anyone wants to, from staff, would wish to clarify?
Sure, I'd like to clarify a couple things. The tree that you see in the middle of the existing trailhead is a scrub oak tree. So it's not a traditional large oak that you would see like a valley oak or coast live oak, but that actually is a scrub oak. So we would actually maintain that there. We would probably just get rid of all the non-native weeds and things that are around it. The picnic table is just a conceptual idea, so that's not something that we are stuck with, so that can be removed from the plan. And then the entrance off of Green Meadow that she mentioned, basically that's where the entrance already is. It's just that trying to direct that to be the main entrance is, instead of having people continue down Moore Park, and sometimes people will go down this, further south on Moore Park into the area that's the unneeded right-of-way, and then they'll turn right into the existing trailhead. So basically we have people coming in from Green Meadow and from Moore Park, and they're going in basically the wrong direction in that southwest-bound lane. So it's just kind of a mess having people enter from all those, from basically 3 different spots there. And so if we had the only entrance be on Green Meadow and then the only exit be on Moore Park, we thought it would just flow better, basically. And let's see. The $50,000 design figure, that is, I think, based just on estimates from other projects that the Public Works staff has worked on. And nothing has gone out to bid yet. We don't have any sort of drawings or anything yet, even a full description of the project to even send out to bid yet. So this is very conceptual at this point. And let's see, we appreciate your volunteering that you've done already, and I hope that you'll continue to volunteer. And I guess Mark just spoke to you, so he can give you all the information about the volunteer programs. And the way the lot is sloped right now and is not really graded is a problem, as we already talked about, for the runoff onto the streets, as well as for people trying to load and unload their bikes, and just for parking in general. It's pretty steep, so when you try to get out of your car, just if you're going hiking or whatever, it's very awkward, basically, to get things in and out and to get yourself in and out. So we just thought it would make it much more usable, much more user-friendly to grade that to be flatter. And that's all I have.
Okay.
If I could also.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, if I could just add, it is very conceptual at this point from the city's perspective. When they get into design, it could end up that's a T intersection. It could end up with a cul-de-sac type configuration. Those are the types of things they'll figure out as they go forward. I'm happy to pass along Ms. Evans' name and number to the Public Works folks. It's always nice to get the perspective of the neighbors and what they see and what's out there. And I know they're more than happy to take that into consideration as they start to do the preliminary design work.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Yes, Director Jacobson.
Were any of the neighbors within the service area, so to speak, notified of the work that was underway and that this item was going to be on the agenda? And if not, at some appropriate time in the future, will there be distribution of information or an invitation to people to make comment on the design as it progresses?
Yes, and because this is a partnership, the residents around that area were notified of the Traffic Commission meeting, which is coming up on September 21st, and it's the city staff, Kathy Lowry, who is one of the traffic engineers, she's taking the same project to the Traffic Commission. So they were notified that that's the piece of paper that Miss Evans showed us. So they were notified with a map and a general description of the project. So, and Miss Evans actually emailed Director Bill de la Pena, and so Miss Evans' email is in front of you too. So that's how she found out about this meeting. And, we do publish and post the agenda for this meeting, as far and wide as possible. But we didn't notify the adjacent neighbors of this meeting because they were already notified of the Traffic Commission meeting.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Yes. The Traffic Commission meeting is on the 21st, which is next Wednesday?
Correct.
Okay. Normally when we do have public hearings, per se, that we notify within a 500-foot radius, I believe, some of the neighbors for the city projects of public hearings. And I'm glad that we were able to notify Ms. Evans about tonight's meeting. With this all being conceptual, and nonetheless you do need this board's approval, how is it, or how will the Traffic Commission then, what will they be looking at? If they are going to have to approve some sort of traffic circulation, and nothing has been finalized yet, it's all very conceptual, how will they be able to approve traffic if there is no plan before them?
Basically, they would also be approving the concept of this improvement to the trailhead and to the unneeded right-of-way. But this is really just a public forum for people to comment on the concept. So the Traffic Commission wouldn't be approving anything except that it's okay for staff to proceed with design of this concept, and then they would review it again in the future once there's an actual design. So instead of choosing this site, coming up with a whole design before the public or the Traffic Commission or Cosca has any opportunity to comment on it, we and the city decided to bring it conceptually to the Cosca board and the Traffic Commission, just to see if people even think this is a good idea. So it could just go away now, before it gets to the design phase.
So this is all still in its infancy, which is very good to see. And the way this is progressing, will it eventually end up before the Planning Commission or the City Council, or is this just going to be under whose jurisdiction after tonight's vote and the Traffic Commission recommendation? Where will this end up, since it is city money?
It would go back to the City Council because they would have to approve a contract, and I think that they would also have to approve the design, and so it would also come back to you to approve the design. Come back to the Costco board, excuse me.
Okay. All right. I think that is more comforting now, actually, to me, because I think we do need to make changes, and I also wanted to ask staff about the runoff and how to water the plants rather than having it go into the street, using that water to water the plants that may be planted on that particular site. We're going to have to look at such ideas in order to be more environmentally friendly. But I am concerned about the budget. I have to tell you flat out, it's a lot of money, and I'm sure we're going to be looking at that as well as this moves forward.
Director Gibson.
I want to applaud staff for taking the initiative to bring a concept forward without having everything hard on paper, and to show a willingness to work with the neighbors. And I also want to applaud the neighbors for showing the willingness to get involved. To me, I think this is an ideal way for a project like this to move forward. There needs to be obviously neighborhood input. I share concerns about the budget that Claudia brought up as well. I'm sure that an cost-effective design will come forward on this. I think the route of taking this to the Traffic Commission and getting their input on where driveways should be and egress is all very workable. So with that, I'm willing to support this, and I would move staff recommendation.
All right, we have a motion. We have a second. I think Mark beat you to it. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes.
Yes, Director Bill Pena.
Thank you. I wanted to reiterate that I truly welcome the citizen input, and that this board welcomes the citizen input. And this is really unusual in that this is in such an early stage, and we are already inviting feedback on this. And staff, I'm sure, will make every effort to let as many people as possible know as to what will go in there, and there will be notifications about any upcoming meetings as well. So this is actually a very good step forward. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any noes? Any abstentions? Motion carries.
I'd just like to make one clarification in terms of where the money is coming from. I believe it's coming from the Air Resources Fund that the city has, which is, maybe Mr. Watkins can clarify this, but it's actually, can you clarify this, please?
Well, I know where I don't know where this project is being funded. Their resources funds are developer funds that are paid by developers in lieu of being able to do actual on-site mitigation. And so there's a fund that the city has that they then can use to promote alternative modes of transportation, bike trails, things like that. That's where it's coming. Okay.
So that's where the money is coming from. So it's not coming out of the general fund. Just wanted to clarify. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Let's go on to item 6B, which is the Board of Directors meeting schedule proposed for 2012.
Move approval.
Been moved by Director Bill Pena. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. No noes, no abstentions. And that brings us to staff reports. The 2011-2012 Cosca budget. Ms. Ford.
Thank you, Chair Skay. If I could direct your attention to the PowerPoint, please. So every year we bring forward to the board information about our annual budget. And as you know, our budget is a combination of portions of both the city budget and the CRPD budget. The CRPD's budget was approved on June 16th, 2011, and the city's budget was approved on June 14th. And in those budgets, Cosca's 2011-2012 operating budget is just over $1.18 million, which is $128,000 less than last fiscal year. And because the budget is shared 50-50 by both the city and CRPD, each agency will contribute an estimated $592,000 toward that operating budget. For Cosca's capital improvement project budget, this year we have $120,000, and that is slated for two different projects. $100,000 of that is for our continued implementation of the Canoe Canyons Management Plan, including possibly some new trail construction and hopefully a new trailhead near the city's Municipal Service Center. And the second project for $20,000 is for improvements to dilapidated trail fencing along the Los Robles Trail. This map here shows our Canoe Canyons Management Plan trail improvement priority map. It's difficult to see, but some of the red trails that are shown on there may be ones that we would that we plan to tackle this year with our funding. And a couple of photos here of the present condition of the Los Robles Trail fence. As you can see, it does need some repairs. And with that, I'm available for any questions.
Questions of staff? That fence, I believe, is about 30 years old, isn't it?
Probably true.
for a wood fence. Pretty amazing. And I also wondered, so the fact that there's a reduction in this year's budget, is that due to vacancies, personnel vacancies, or other? Can you pinpoint what the cost cutting has been to reduce the budget?
Approximately $60,000 of that change is in CRPD's salary and benefits budget. My understanding is that in past years, CRPD has budgeted in hopes of hiring a 7th ranger, and for the upcoming 2 fiscal years has not included that in their budget. And part of the other portion of the difference is about $50,000 that we had allocated in past fiscal years for our encroachment program for additional assistance in the city attorney's office, which we are not continuing forward during this budget.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes.
I would, let's see. I do have a question, but I wanted to see if, is there a vote needed for this? Yeah, we are.
No, I think this is
just informational, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to say that I have to applaud Cosca and the staff, because this is a small budget, and the reason Cosca is so successful is because we have very efficient staff, and most importantly, perhaps, is also the volunteer help. The volunteers make this happen. If it weren't for the volunteers, we wouldn't be doing. The city couldn't do the things it is doing with such a tiny budget. So it is really, I think, one of the jewels in this entire city. So I wanted to just let you know and congratulate you on that, and the volunteers as well. Thanks.
Okay. Director Gibson.
Yeah, Kristen, you sort of, in your explanation here, you indicated that the part of the city's reduction is the fact that we're not going after some of the city attorney code compliance or encroachment issues. Does that mean that we're not utilizing the part-time or half-position code compliance person that we talked about last year?
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you for that report. And no other questions about the budget? Thank you. Let's go on to the strategic plan update. Ms. Austin. Clarify, you did not need a vote on the budget, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Just one moment.
Okay. Technical difficulties.
PowerPoint for the verbal? Verbal report for the PowerPoint. I know.
I'll just begin. As you remember, on May 11th, 2011, the Costco board authorized staff to hire 2M associates to develop a strategic plan for Costco. After that approval, staff met with 2M to refine the planning process and to set a schedule for completing the strategic plan elements. In July and August, 2M conducted interviews with members of the board, staff, and open space supporters. The next step in this process is the strategic plan public workshop, which we will have next week on Tuesday, September 20th from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's going to take place at the boardroom at the Canoe Recreation and Park District headquarters at 403 West Hillcrest Drive in Thousand Oaks. And the purpose of this public workshop is to have members of the community voice their thoughts about the future of the open space and trail system and let us know what their priorities are. The next steps in the process will include the preparation of a draft mission, vision, goals, and objectives document. And a second public workshop will take place in October or November. And on November 9th, the draft mission, vision, goals, and objectives document will be presented to the board for their review. And then additional scheduling includes preparation of the draft strategic plan, which will occur between January and April of 2012. And in May of 2012, the draft strategic plan will be presented to the board. And then we will integrate the board's comments and suggestions into the final plan and then present the final strategic plan to the board in July of 2012. And I'm available for questions.
Yeah, just curious, how are you advertising the workshop? This is the first that I've heard about it or seen anything about it.
We have a list of volunteers who have volunteered for us in the past, and so we sent emails to all of them, and we sent letters to the people who didn't have email addresses, and emails or letters to the homeowners associations in the community, and it's also posted on the city and Costco websites, and we did a press release last week.
And was your press release published anywhere? I don't recall seeing anything. You might want to follow up with your press release.
I think the Acorn is doing a story.
Yeah, I believe the Acorn is going to have a story tomorrow in the paper.
Okay. Because I know part of the feedback that I gave to the two individuals from 2M was encouraging, trying to get more individuals involved. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little concerned. Homeowners associations are great, but my homeowner association, our newsletter comes out quarterly. Mm-hmm. We're not going to hear anything about it. So, and I'm sure others throughout the community are the same way. So, I would encourage staff to try to be a little more proactive, and as opposed to the usual list and usual suspects, try to get more input.
Another thing that I forgot to mention is that we did post the workshop announcements at all the trailheads. And we did that before last weekend so that all the people that go to the trailhead saw them over the weekend, and that's usually a lot of people. And this sending...
If you're not a trail user, but you enjoy other aspects of the open space, you're not involved.
Sure.
And you don't know what's going on. And that was part of my comments and criticisms to 2M about, we focus on trail users, and we have 15,000 acres of open space, and not all of it involves trails. So.
Sure. Thank you.
My HOA puts out a newsletter once a year, so I will never hear about this. And not until perhaps next year. So notifying HOAs is good for those who sit on the board, but not necessarily the homeowners or the members of the HOA. I would strongly recommend, and I'm not sure whether there's enough money in the budget for that, but we do need to take out ads, I believe, in both newspapers, and see if we can get public service announcements on KCLU radio in order to attract more public input, because there are trailheads or entries to trails that are not official and don't have any postings. The end of my street, for example, is a very frequently used entry to the Los Robles Trail, and it's not an official trail, and so many cars park there, and people wouldn't know unless it's posted. So I don't know whether we can post something on other unofficial entries to trails, such as the one at the end of the street on which I live. And I'm trying to think, the website, that's always a good idea. But if we can somehow figure out more outreach, I don't know if the school district would be another way to go. Well, I don't know if what would the park district do?
We've got our program flyer.
Program.
But, one of the things I was thinking about, Mr. Watkins is here. Public Works puts out a monthly newsletter that goes out to basically every homeowner in the community, and I really want to emphasize, and I hear Claudia doing, is that outreach is the name of the game, and sort of what I heard was sort of like, okay, we're going to get the same people that we always get. So I know it's too short for the meeting next week, but you have a meeting coming up in October, November, you said. So I would really support some of the suggestions that Claudia came up with, and some of the other avenues we have. The water bill stuffers, there's lots of little things to do. So
I did just want to point out quickly that in past years we have had a small advertising budget for items like this, but as part of the budget reducing process that we've gone through over the past few years, and I know this is the same for many other departments and programs as well. Our advertising budget was essentially eliminated, and so that, but finding low cost and no cost ways certainly something we can think about for the next workshop.
I would expect that you did send a press release, and in my experience, the papers usually don't do a story until like right before the event, so you might or at the event. So maybe give a call to Zeke Barlow or one of the other Ventura County Star reporters just to give them a nudge that this might be something to report on. Yes, Director Gibson.
And again, I was not at the last meeting. I don't know how much money we authorized for this, but we are spending money on this, and if staff feels that we need to get some additional budget to get the outreach, let's not spend $20,000 or $30,000 and not an effort that for another $500 or $1,000 we could have got more outreach. So it's sort of like, yeah, we're going through the process, but the whole idea is to get public involvement, and the public needs to know. So don't be bashful about saying, we need.
Okay. Yes.
That was going to be my next question as well, Mr. Gibson, is can we help increase the advertising budget for this particular project, because it is a major project. It is something on which we are already spending a lot of money, and I completely agree that we should really make it worth everyone's while. And if it's just a couple $1,000 more in order to get an ad out or two, how would we go about doing that? Whose piggy bank would we have to break open for that, Mr. Watkins?
I'm not certain piggy bank is right. I mean, certainly within the city, we've got a number of potential options. You mentioned the utility bill stuffers. We can do those. There's a timeliness issue with those. The city newsletter was also cut back. I think it's 3 times a year rather than quarterly now. We call that thirderly. So, but it, so yeah, everybody's been impacted by that, and so we're doing more of the online presence and that type of thing, just because it is so inexpensive to do. But that does, and every one of those different venues taps a different demographic. So, but certainly, I'm sure Kristen and Shelley will follow up with all the different kind of options that are out there. We do have a PIO also that does an excellent job of getting the word out. So,
and Chair Skay, one other option that we might review is looking at the contract for 2M and seeing if there is a section in there that we can amend to add into that contract. We'd have to actually look at it, but add into that contract and bring it back to Cosca board at the next meeting to amend the total cost of that contract if it's necessary, and have that as another element of the contract is a little bit more outreach funding for specific things. So that might be another alternative that staff will look at.
Okay. Thank you all. Let's have the report from Matt Kuba on the Cosca Ranger operations and maintenance. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. We forgot about the Canoe Canyons Trail Bridge update.
Thank you, Chair Skay. I'm going to have a PowerPoint up here in a minute. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to do an update on the Canoe Canyons Trail Bridge project. And as you'll remember, this is where the project is located. It's at the north end of the Canoe Canyons open space, north of Hill Canyon Treatment Plant, off of Santa Rosa Road, on the west side of Hill Canyon Road. Here is another view of the location, and you're looking at Hill Canyon Road in the foreground, and then the bridge going over the Arroyo Conejo, and there's a park there in the northern end of the photo. So this is the beginning of the bridge project, and what you see here is some silt fencing and some survey markers, and this is on the east side of the creek here, and this was sort of the very beginning work that the contractor did. in preparation for the work. This is removal of the well that we had on the west side of the creek, and we had to abandon and remove the well because it was right in the line of where the bridge was going to be going in. Also, when a well isn't being used, you're supposed to abandon it, but because there's been very limited access to that portion of the property, we hadn't done it yet, so there's the tough work of abandoning a well right there. This picture shows the west side of the creek, and this is actually a Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority fire crew in there, and they helped us with site preparation and removal of trees that were also in the line of the bridge. So they were very helpful, very available, and it was really great to partner with MRCA. Here you see the augering for pile construction, and basically this project involves 4 piles, 2 under each abutment, and they are 24 inches in diameter and 40 feet deep. And here you can see the crane is installing the pile cage, which is made of rebar, steel rebar basically. Pretty impressive. And this is all on the west side of the creek, the far side of the creek. So this is a difficult location. And here is the wooden form for the west side abutment. This is inside that form. That's the rebar for the actual abutment. And here's the concrete going into the form over the rebar and all. And so today they were actually removing that form. Basically, they put the concrete in and let it sit for a day and then can remove the form, which is pretty neat. So just to go over next steps for this project, the form on the east side, the form of the east side of abutment will be built, we hope, September 14th through the 19th, and then concrete will be poured for that east side abutment September 20th. Grading and construction for the bridge approaches on both sides of the creeks will take place September 21st through October 7th, and the projected bridge installation will occur on October 11th. That's when the actual bridge structure will be lifted with a crane and placed on the abutments. So that'll be an exciting day. And just to refresh your memory, here is the actual bridge that's going to be going in over the creek to provide trail access from Wildwood to the Canoe Canyons. And here is a view of the trail that the trail users will be connecting to on the west side of the creek. And here's another view of that trail. Beautiful spot. A lot of people haven't seen because it's hard to get to now, but it will be much more accessible soon. And with that, I'm available for questions.
Thank you very much. We didn't want to miss that. Any questions on the bridge?
No, but if Shelley could add for our member here of the public tonight how it was financed, this particular bridge, which I thought was amazing.
Right. Part of the financing for the bridge came from a $35,000 donation from the public, basically from individuals and some companies that donated to this bridge project because everybody in the public was really supportive and really wanted this access across the creek for the trail system. So it's very exciting. It's the first of that type of donation that we've ever received for a project in the open space. So
thank you. Now can we hear from Matt Koopa on ranger operations?
PowerPoint as well, but I can't see it from here, so I'm going to scoot over. Does this work?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, kind of just going to encompass the whole summer since I haven't seen you all summer. We've had some major things happen. our supervising park ranger, Glenn Kinney, retired after 17 years of service, and that created an opening. We filled that with, we had another staff opening as well, so we have 2 brand new shiny rangers, Dustin Patterson and Carrie Tam. Dustin is a recent graduate from UCSB with a degree in zoology. He's a former lifeguard and avid surfer. And then Carrie comes to us from Channel Islands National Park, where she worked on dispatch, and her degree is from Channel Islands Environmental Science and Resource Management. So proud to have them on board. Through the summer, this was taken early in the summer, so now it's a little browner, but we've had an extremely busy summer. Wildwood's been packed almost every weekend, so the Rangers' time on the weekend is spent with that, and during the week just clearing the trail, so that's what we've been doing. We've had a couple other projects. We put in a new bench. Okay, no, go to the next one. Okay, there's the new bench, another new bench with the Eagle Scout that's up in Lang Ranch area, under the watchful eye of Dustin in the background. And but we did take care of that couch and the other debris over there. So this is some photos from the non-native plant removal, the fennel, arundo grass, and tree tobacco that was removed. And it was a great day. They got a ton of fennel removed. It's really an invasive plant. It's heavy throughout the Western Plateau. The Costco members and a lot of the other public have gotten very excited about removing it. We're working on timing so that it's not going to seed. In this case, you see the fennel, the flowers are still there, so we got it before it went to seed, which is great. And then we can remove the stumps and hopefully get a whole handle on this and get some more productive native plants out there. So, tree tobacco as well is another invasive that takes away from the native stuff. Some graffiti this through the summer, but not as much as years past, which is good. And as always, we get it as quickly as we can. And always end every slideshow with a sunset. And so I'm available for questions.
Questions of Mr. Kuba? Very good. May I ask, Matt, have the Rangers seen any change or uptick in any other depreciative activities? I mean, you always have the random dumping. Have there been more of that sort of thing? Or
it's hard to track it in terms of volume, okay. And it seems to be very random. You'll see some activity going on. For some reason, there's graffiti. Graffiti breeds graffiti, so if somebody sees somewhere in town, they feel like they've got to do it someplace else. So you will see it go up and down based on that. But you really can't. We can't track it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Sure. Great job. And at this point, Bart, are there any members of the board that have comments they want to make on anything not on the agenda or announcements? Then at this point, I believe we will be adjourning to a closed session, and I would ask our counsel to make the announcement of this closed session.
Thank you, Chair. This is a conference with the legal counsel regarding the initiation of litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9C. It will only be one potential case. I'm withdrawing one of the cases from discussion tonight.
Thank you very much. And so we will adjourn to closed session, and our next meeting is scheduled for November 9th.